Greetings, family. I read something not long ago, like today, and it was really inspiring to me. So I wanted to share it because it also brought to mind something that I've been thinking about black-owned businesses and the way we talk about black-owned businesses, or the way we understand black-owned businesses, or essentially our need to engage, support, and participate with black-owned businesses. I guess it was maybe about 2011, 2012, around that time, early 2012, that I really internalized and understood the power of intention on a personal level. And my mantra was, be intentional, be intentional. I was talking about being intentional and hashtagging being intentional and, all that kind of stuff. And again, that was back in 2011. And, since then, I'm still very intentional. Though I've, moved on to some, adding some things to that intentionality. And I know that has become a very popular word and a word that has a tremendous amount of power. And I'm connecting that with our support for the concept and truthfulness of black-owned businesses, because I think it is time for us to evolve our conversation about black-owned businesses, support, revenues, spending power, all that kind of thing. I think we've become a little stagnant or rhetorical, and there's still some things that people aren't clear about. And what I read essentially was someone who raised a good question, good point about supporting black-owned businesses, in particular Circle Food Store, who's this Saturday, the good brother Eric and the Howard University, I think he's a part of that group, the Howard University alumni group, is sponsoring a cash mob at Circle Food Store, which is just essentially going to take that day, and people are going to be intentional about supporting Circle Food Store financially, which isn't unheard of. It's been done before. It's been done with many businesses, black-owned businesses in particular, as a way to just stimulate their revenue in a very concentrated amount of time, so that we're all intentional together. And it is group economics, because we're all doing it deliberately. But the writer said that, I'm all for supporting our own people, but our people has to take care of us. If you want us to spend our green money there instead of elsewhere, then why don't you promote healthy eating? If Black Lives Matter so much, then why are black businesses selling us unhealthy foods, candy, cigarettes, liquors, pig feet, processed foods, canned goods, sodas, and potato chips are the same things that they are selling us? What makes Circle Foods differently? Skin color. All right. Point taken. But I think when it comes down to buying and selling and the exchange of goods and commerce as it relates to black people with other black people in a capitalist system, there has to be some better understanding on our part, the consumer, of what capitalism is and really how it functions, and why supporting black-owned businesses is beneficial to black people. And the thing that it is about, it isn't about the dollar amount as much, but incrementally it's about market share. And this talk is going to be real short. And if you want to understand better capitalism and market share and those kinds of things, you can look those up, because there's nothing I'm inventing about that. That's not difficult to understand. But in short, the black people that I know, particularly in the black people who are going to be participating in the cash mob, and also black people who make a habit of supporting black-owned businesses financially, the concept of market share simply means that in a market or where black people don't have an unlimited amount of money, once you go to Circle Food Store, say for example, and you spend $100 on groceries, well, that's $100 you don't have to spend at another grocery store or a competitor of Circle Food Store that may not be black owned. And so in the game or the business or the warfare, actually, that is about capitalism, in so much that we can right now, that may be the best that we can do, just to keep our own people in a position where they have more autonomy over their time and their relationship to systems and institutions. The the person who wrote the writer, I'm sure represents the thoughts and ideas of a great many of our people, particularly in the way that we are very critical of how it is that black-owned businesses, for example, are engaging in business and how they're treating us. But we have a long history in this country of being discriminated against, disrespected, dehumanized, and everything else by many well-known and established non-black-owned businesses that we've never challenged, not even in our own minds, let alone publicly or anything. So the idea that the black-owned business should be held more accountable than any other business, or that we should be more discriminating with our dollars or our buying power with a black-owned business as opposed to a non-black-owned business, speaks to more of an internalized racial inferiority than anything to do with money. It's always important to note when it comes to money and finances that black people in particular, because of history, have always had a dysfunctional relationship with the American dollar. And that's largely due to the fact that we are the only people who are in America currently who descend from people who were once purchased with that dollar. So it's not uncommon for, or at least unreasonable for people like us to have a lot of difficulty and struggle around money and capitalism and our place in it. So I don't fault the writer for having a perspective, and I certainly don't invalidate the writer's feelings. And I know that simply a cash mob at Circle Food Store on one day won't change the trajectory of all black-owned businesses. But it will impact market share, because that means on that particular day, if you do go to Circle and spend, I think they're asking for you to spend $20 or something like that. It is an exercise really of self-determination and doing for ourselves, meaning that we can actually be on both sides of the counter and meet the needs. And I also think that if there is a matter of inventory or offerings at Circle Food Store or any other place that our people shop or frequent, then, it's really about relationships. I think that we can certainly talk to the owners or people who have to do with the offerings and tell them about what it is that we'd like to spend our money on. I mean, that makes sense. Black-owned businesses isn't something we need to be distant from or disconnected from. It's just black people. And because it is black people in America, black-owned businesses have black people problems. And it's not because black people are inherently bad or stupid or slow or anything. That would require someone to understand what racism really is. And again, this is not going to be that kind of a thing. There's just no time for that. But there's a time and a place where we could get into that. And all of our people should be able to get trained on really being clear about racism, what it is, how it's a racial construct. It has nothing to do with someone's, not liking you personally or individually, that it is a system. It is a structural thing. And with good analysis and good examination, it's not hard to connect someone feeling a certain way about a black-owned businesses in relation to a non-black-owned business. So it's a deep, deep subject. But the largest is, if you're so inclined and you have a certain amount of pride just in your own people, because keeping Circle Food Store open helps keep that family who's owned Circle Food Store for a very long time in a position where they're autonomous, where they are not depending upon people outside of the community, but whether they can have a relationship with their own people in the community, which is just logic. It's just logical. And all communities essentially do that. And it's not that black people can't do it, but black people aren't necessarily clear about how we've come to be in the condition we're in. And even the thoughts that we're thinking, that we think are our own, have been co-opted and manipulated. We've learned much of what we learned about our own people, our own history, and our own abilities from our oppressors. And we've learned it explicitly and implicitly. So there's a whole lot of self-examination that needs to happen with us before we even open our mouths, I think. But I would encourage people to come out Circle Food Store at Saturday anywhere from 7A to 7P, I want to say. And, support. Just spend a couple of dollars. Because here's the deal. I don't eat pig feet. I don't eat processed foods. I don't eat canned foods. I don't even eat cooked food. I don't eat candy or cigarettes or liquor or none of that stuff. But I don't tell people what they should and shouldn't do. But if you're going to buy any of that stuff, and Circle Food Store has it, buy it from them. Just be intentional about going in there and buying it from them. And really that's it. Ain't nothing real heavy. But this Saturday on the 24th at Circle Food Store on the corner of St. Bernard and Claiborne 1522, St. Bernard Avenue. Go through there, check it out, drop a couple of dollars. If you got questions, concerns, comments, I understand that someone from management or ownership is going to be on hand. Rap with them. Talk to them, black person to black person, about what you'd like to see, and then take some feedback from them. Because when we talk about this whole black-owned business thing, the two components we don't talk about on black-owned businesses, we don't talk about or understand well market share is the one, and the second is supply chain. Because you got black-owned businesses all day with white supply chains. And again, it's time to evolve the discussion so that if we're really going to be intentional about supporting black-owned businesses, it has to be a much deeper dive than what we've done previously. It isn't simply about where we're spending, quote unquote, what we think is our dollar, but rather how we're moving around this commerce throughout the supply chain, and then understanding what market share is and why it matters. And so I thank y'all for listening. What's happening? I got, let's see, Robin Joseph, she's watching. David Turner Jr., what's happening? Michelle Singletary, Anthony King, what's happening, bro? Aaron Greathouse, Ashley Foneville. Short video, put some, because this is not really an opinion of mine. It's just me analyzing the situation. I'm seeing the same things that many of our people are seeing. I just don't know that we're always intentional about how we're behaving with it. And that is something we can decide to do. But we only do that if we're guided by something inside of here, not here, but in here, and having a certain kind of unconditional love for black people. See, that has everything to do with what you're doing, with what's in your pocket. It ain't about somebody having a trend or asking or demanding you to support a black-owned business. It's just your level of connection to yourself and your own people, and being able to look at those people who are black business owners and relating to them and saying, but that's just me, and I could help them develop this business. We still can't forget the black part, because see, whenever you put the black part in there, it changes. You don't hear people talking about white-owned businesses. A brother just had a statistic earlier today. He says that 60% of the New Orleans population is black, but less than 5% of all CEOs in the city of New Orleans are black. The median income for black families, we know a black family of four is $25,000, and poverty is $24,000 for a family of four here in the city of New Orleans, and 40% of the city's in poverty. These things are not because black people are lazy, dumb, non-industrious, and all this other stuff. This is an arrangement. So it's much larger than simply the number is about spending power for black people. So do what you can to affect some change on your own personal individual level. Be intentional about how it is that you're dealing with the market share aspect of the business or the commerce or the capitalism, because this is a capitalist society, and whether or not any of us like that or not, we're all engaged in it. I mean, anybody who's buying and selling anything in America is part of capitalism, period. So, until we can rework it or get it into something else, we can be intentional about where we're moving the little dollars that we have, and have a very good feeling about that. So, that's all I got. Thank y'all for watching. Share it and discuss that. And see y'all Saturday at Circle Food Store from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. That's 1522 St. Bernard Avenue. And it is the Howard University Alumni Association that is sponsoring this event. I'm Brother Shaq. Thank you, family.